Alright, so you've come to a point where you've decided to commit to leaving social media for a period of time, and most likely, if you're like me when I first started out, you've been procrastinating for weeks or maybe days until you finally stumble upon this video right here, which you're about to hit that deactivate button on Instagram or permanently delete your account or get the screen time app, but then you just want to look at other people who have gone through this process. And in this video, I just want to share with you a unique and different perspective. And this perspective is one that you may have not really heard from anyone talk about this when it comes to approaching dopamine detox, media detox, or whatever you call it. And before giving you this perspective, I just want to give you some context on where I stand with this debate on, like yes, dopamine detox or no dopamine detox. And I'm someone who's been doing self-improvement for nearly 3 years now. And I stumbled upon this movement back in 2023 when I was 14 years old. Now I'm 17 years old. And actually, I only got started, I would say, when I'm like 15. As you can imagine, it takes some time to consume all of the content, all of these new lifestyle stuff, and soak it all in your head. And then there's this period of time where you're still debating whether or not you should, get started with this or get started with that. And you're basically skeptical, right? And so after getting into testing all of these productivity routines from, cold showers to gym routines to dopamine detox, I could definitely validate that this has drastically transformed my life. And it gave me one of the necessary wake-up calls that I needed to set foot into this journey of, living towards my higher self and living a beautiful life. And I bet it will also do so for you as well. But then there's this one secret nugget that I found and realized when I'm looking back at my experiences of doing these detoxes, which I wish I knew when I began this journey. You see, back then when I first started social media detox, everything seemed to have gone really well. First couple of weeks, it would still take you some time to find something meaningful to replace your time with, no more social media, so what are you going to do? And then there's also these times when you're doing your work and then you pick up your phone and you go on Safari and then you search up Instagram, but then you realize that you deactivated your account. And over time, as months pass by, however, you start to see yourself using less and less of your phone during work blocks, which is an awesome thing. And it seems like social media just completely disappeared from your life. And fast forward to 6 months later, I was just sitting there one day just looking back at the decision and all of the transformations that dopamine detox have brought me and seeing how much my life have changed with this small little habit. I decided to test myself, just this once to bring back all of the memories of how things were before and really understand this transformation more. So then I decided to reactivate my Instagram account and start seeing post after post come up on my feed. And what I realized is that most of the posts that came up was my friend's end of school post or the birthday post or, whatever theme park they explored or blah, 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 blah. And then I go into the Reels section, start scrolling that as well and seeing old creators pop up with the same old content that I used to watch, looking at their profiles and checking my friends' profiles. And then I just recognized that, damn, there was just not a lot of things that I missed. Like people were still doing the same things, acting the same way as I remember how they were, and posting the same message over and over again. And I think that's where most people stop and claim that this dopamine detox transformation was successful in transforming their lives and everything. But if you could think about this question for a minute, did cutting out social media really transform your life? Like, everyone talks about how it's such a great thing. Like you save chunks of hours that help you increase your attention span, allow you to focus more on yourself and less on others, make less comparisons. But then, did you actually grow as a person? One of the realizations that I had was when I was looking back at the old posts and content of other people, I realized that I still had this similar emotion stirring up inside of me. Like I still feel this sense of hatred to particular people, and I still feel this sense of like joy with particular content. So, like in terms of understanding your mindset, like did your mindset actually shift when you go back to social media? Or is it more like, it just froze in time? And once you start thinking about this in a deeper level, because all of the things that you've been scrolling and all of the things that you've been watching before were somewhat part of your identity, wouldn't you say dopamine detox is kind of as a form of escapism, right? Like you're escaping from your own identity, and it's really not different to watching TV or playing video games because you're trying to escape from what you are, right? You're trying to escape from all the problems that you have in life. And this has been something interesting that I've been thinking about for quite a while now. Like, let's just say, for example, to make this more clear, like you're at a stage where you experience like a breakup. So then you're more likely to subscribe to content on dealing with breakups or stories with like a more depressing energy and more depressing vibe, so then you can resonate with your situation, right? So if we think about social media this way, wouldn't social media be just a reflection of your identity and what you're seeking in life during that moment? Basically, isn't dopamine detox also the same way to say, fuck this, I don't want to deal with this right now, to your problems and the natural stage of life that you're facing? So what I propose with dopamine detox is that instead of getting straight into it and completely forgot everything about social media and all of your consumption and all of your old habits, is I want you to start thinking of social media as like a mirror, right? A mirror of your self-identity, of who you are right now. Because a lot of people don't think about it in that way. They think that social media is the devil, they're the enemy, right? But in reality, it just reflects what you're naturally interested in and what you're facing. That's why everyone has a different feed, right? Because we're all unique people facing unique things. And sometimes it can also be hard to think about all of the nasty things that happen in our lives, which is reflected back to why we're watching particular reels, right? But again, I want to ask you the question, what are your intentions with dopamine detox? And maybe you're at a stage where dopamine detox is already a big enough transformation for you. And if so, I would highly encourage you to go for it. Just go straight for it. I mean, for me personally, it worked really well, so there's no problem with that. But then if you're someone who actually wants something more during this transformation period, like actually figuring out why you were attracted to these content and who this person is on the inside and what your actual identity is, I propose that you just start being more aware of the 5 W's, which are who, what, where, when, why, and how, whenever you're consuming social media. And that's probably not the 5 W's, the 5 W's and the 1 H. So just start seeing what types of content you're watching on social media, right? Like, when and where are you watching social media the most, and what triggers these actions, and like what type of creators are you watching? And normally what you'll start to realize is that it will give you lots of hints on your own identity and what things are popping up in your mind during that period of life. One huge thing that you begin to realize is that most of the time the things that you're watching just reflects the feelings that the video contains, right? It's all about the feelings itself. A lot of the decisions in your life is based on how you emotionally feel during that moment. For example, when you feel hungry, what you will naturally do is you would decide to eat. If you feel lonely, then you would hang out with your friends, or you will watch YouTube videos with other people who resonate with you. When you feel motivated, you would be super energetic and you would be super passionate and have lots of drive with building your vision. And really, this is the same thing with social media. Like, what type of feelings is your feed actually masking and reflecting back on you? And sometimes it's just really funny because so many people out there say that social media is harmful for kids, right? It could lead to addiction, and it could lead to this and lead to that. And yeah, maybe that may be half of the story, but then the other half of the story is that social media can actually help you figure out how your subconscious mind works. In particular, it can show you what stage in life you're in right now and how you're feeling, and also what this monster inside of you're actually dealing with. And really only after being aware of who you are can you really find out the root problems that you're facing right now in life and take initiative and responsibility to truly transform them, to truly no longer face these problems as fears or face these problems as painful things and things that condition you on your everyday life, and take control of them and do something acting out of love and acting out of passion. And again, this process may not be for everyone because it does take some work to really pay attention and be more aware and take this extra step to understand these roots and trace all of these problems back to its sources. But then when people come up to me and they tell me that they don't want to do this, like my question to them is, then what's the point of living life? What's the point of living a life in a body that you're not willing to fully understand? Why are you wasting this miracle? And by miracle, I mean this miracle of having this one beautiful life, when you can experience all of the joys you want in the world. We're born in a time where all the resources are basically in the palms of our hands. But then will you let fear, and will you let your emotions, will you let these illusions, things that aren't real, dictate and control the fate of your life? For anyone who's going on their dopamine detox journey, wish you guys the best of luck. Super excited for you guys to experience this significant transformation in your life, as I can understand how hard it is, to be honest. You just get started with taking the first step. But if you really want to go in one deeper level, I hope I offered you a unique perspective, so then you can also, explore some of your roots and just discover who you are during this process of transformation as well. Namaste.